We can start. So welcome everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Eugene Stefanov. I'm the marketing manager for the financial services practice. I'm excited to be moderating today's webinar, Optimization Strategies to Improve Collections. First things first, if you're having trouble hearing this session, please make sure your volume is turned all the way up. And if you're having other issues, feel free to drop me a line in the chat box. And we are recording this session today, so you'll have another opportunity to watch this webinar. We will email you with the information on how to access this recording, as well as the slide deck within the next day or so. And finally, time permitting, we will answer questions at the end of the presentation. And if you have any questions during the presentation, feel free to enter them in the questions box. In a moment, I'll hand it over to our speakers today, but first, let me give you a quick overview of Perficient. So Perficient is a leading global digital consultancy with unparalleled strategy and technology capabilities. We have numerous locations across the US and Europe, as well as nearshore and offshore delivery centers in Latin America, Eastern Europe, India, and China. Founded in 1997, we're a public company that's traded on the NASDAQ, and we have approximately 5,500 employees. We have strategic partnerships with major technology vendors and also have dedicated solution and industry practices. One of these industry practices is, of course, financial services. This slide shows our depth of experience. You can see that we've worked with hundreds of financial services organizations across various sub-industries. And you'll also notice the diverse set of capabilities we have. They enable us to support our clients end to end. All right, now that I've covered the housekeeping items and told you a little bit about Perficient, I'd like to pass it over to our speakers today, Scott Albahari and Byron Gifford. Just flip it over to you, Scott.
Great, Eugene, thank you very much. Thanks everyone for taking the time to join us today. I'm Scott Albahari. I'm a strategist in our financial services practice, and I've spent the better part of the last 20 years working with financial institutions to improve business processes across the full client lifecycle, including prospecting, onboarding, servicing, and of course, the reason we're all here today, collections and recovery. Today, we're going to be discussing practical, field-tested, been there, done that ways to improve your collections function. And we think that no matter where you are on your improvement journey, you'll find some valuable tips today to improve performance and ultimately lower charge-offs. And I'll give it over to my colleague Byron to introduce himself.
Thank you, Scott. My name is Byron Gifford. I'm a lead business consultant focused on collections transformation in the financial services division of Perficient. And I'll say I'm very pumped to speak with everyone attending today's webinar. And why? Because I love collections. I sincerely love the arena, helping people and families during what may be one of their toughest times in their life, and helping banks and credit unions perform better and achieve the results that they aspire to. I started this journey 27 years ago, and I've had the opportunity to work with some of the top banks, PNC, HSBC Bank, Discover, and even Chartway Federal Credit Union. I've led the collections and loss mitigation teams for all consumer loan types, as well as other functions such as project management, systems testing, learning and development, strategy groups, incident management, and even letters and correspondence. I dedicated my career focused on collections and building strengths that allowed me to help these financial institutions achieve record-breaking performance years, remediate and close public consent orders, restart the foreclosure pipeline during the last housing market crash, and even conduct complete rebuilds of collections loss mitigation departments. I joined Perficient because as their collections transformation leader, I get to interface and work with various wonderful financial institutions and help them achieve various levels of transformation. My goal is to always help them exceed their own expectations. So enough about me. It's time to dig in why you decided to attend today. So as Scott said, optimization strategies to improve collections. Forrester research says that banks must focus on customers' financial well-being, revamp their collection journeys, and advance their debt management solutions. Optimization and transformation are very big goals. They take time. And when working with teams of people, we're the experts in helping you navigate the approach and help you drive the change. Our agenda today, we're going to talk about digital collections transformation. We're going to discuss some of our capabilities and our unique approach. We're going to touch on a very exclusive complimentary workshop for all registrants of this webinar, and you won't want to miss that. And ultimately, we would love to hear from you with questions during the Q&A, and certainly we'll close in time for you to resume mitigating losses. So why now? Customer contact preferences have shifted. You probably already know this or you read it on multiple websites, but we know firsthand from helping banks better understand their customers by developing what's called personas. Personas help you truly understand your personal customer demographic and how to better serve them from a customer experience. Leveraging personas is key in improving and elevating the overall customer experience, and then translating it to how you perform your collections process. Next, the CFPB recognizes that new technology can be useful, and while guidelines around those newer technologies aren't very prescriptive yet, establishing a consistent use and a program is important. Reg F, it's going into practice as law on November 30th, and are you ready? That's 7 call attempts within a 7-day period, and then 1 call within a week of making a right party contact. The rules around calling are tightening, and financial institutions will need to prove that they're adhering. This is the best time now then to introduce new technologies to interlace and blend with calls to accomplish your delinquency and loss projections. Next, relief programs. Almost all banks, credit unions, and credit providers have experienced unprecedented reduced losses in the last 18 plus months. So with most of those programs already having ended, you all have different projections on when you're expecting to see volumes increase and when losses will occur based on your various portfolio types. Well, all loan types have a different anticipated surge date of collections volume based on the financial path of the consumer that they created for their families during the pandemic. So just to add, just yesterday, the Labor Department announced that a record-breaking 4.3 million people quit their jobs in just the month of August. That's an astronomical, staggering amount, and it's the most on record. It's 3% of the entire workforce. So with the increased unemployment benefits no longer available, a significant portion of these customers will be falling delinquent, and they're going to be looking for your help. And this number is expected to climb month over month. And then just this morning, I read that nearly 500,000 additional workers have or will be initiating a strike or walkouts. So before that announcement, the last bullet on this slide, the CFPB published that they recognize that mortgage servicers are expected to receive a potentially historical high number of loss mitigation inquiries in the fall, and that many mortgage servicers will face capacity constraints. Reminds me of over 10 years ago. So for the mortgage servicers and top lenders that are attending today, are you prepared based on what your actual losses during the housing market crash of 2008 to 2010? We can help. Scott, I'll pass this over to you.
Yep, sorry about that. I couldn't find the mute button for a second. So anyway, thank you. Byron spoke a lot about some very specific reasons why now is a good time for financial institutions to modernize their collections functions, namely the end of government relief programs and some new regulations. We believe that after a lull for the past 12 to 18 months, we're going to see collections volume increase, but we don't think the way to deal with this volume is to do more of the same old thing. Financial institutions are facing a perfect storm in terms of increased collection volumes and increased customer expectations. Many of your customers who will go into default in the coming months are not the traditional default customer type and are probably not the type of customer you want to lose. This will be a new experience for a lot of them. Many will be confused and many will not be well informed, and the ways that you interact and communicate with them will either cement their loyalty going forward or cause them to seek out competitors. We believe that financial institutions that humanize the collections process will create new value for existing and future customers. As I mentioned on the previous slide, doing more of the same old thing isn't a way to lower charge-offs in this environment. These are industry statistics that are fairly accurate based on our work with clients, and what they show is a significantly greater likelihood to receive full or partial payment as new communications channels are added to the contact strategy. However, even the best collection shops struggle with how to mix and match communications channels against customer preferences to optimize success, and they typically drop them after 30 days and fall back to traditional telephone calls and letters. Really, the quantum leap in benefit happens when FIs can match individual contact preferences to the channels used to communicate with them and personalize messages based on risk factor, credit score, days past due, customer loyalty, customer value, and other factors, which we all do on a day in and day out basis on the marketing side of the organization, but rarely do that on the collections side. Perficient has a lot of experience in digital marketing, and we routinely help our clients better segment their populations and target personalized messages to each segment. And we are having a lot of success, quite frankly, in applying those techniques to delinquent populations and using those techniques routinely used in the customer acquisition function to help improve the collections function. And as we all know, a successful multi-channel contact strategy doesn't just happen. It requires solid data management and orchestration, as well as real-time or near real-time decision-making. Each organization we work with is at a different level in terms of maturity, and we really focus our work on developing self-funding approaches to modernization and transformation. This requires a thorough understanding of the desired customer experience, required capabilities and investments across people, process, and technology, and a strategy that delivers incremental benefits over time so that you can do the inexpensive, low-hanging fruit things first and free up money to start to tackle the more expensive investments. So Byron's going to take us through a couple of these strategy elements right now.
These are the elements for a digital collections transformation. They're not ordered because all are needed. Financial institutions, they've taken different approaches in some cases to establishing disciplines and strengths in some areas, but still require support in others. On the upper left, you'll see digital capabilities. This is key in creating a multiple channel approach and engaging your customer in their channel of choice. Different customer types or personas, as I mentioned earlier, they prefer to engage with their financial institution in different ways. So we believe that you should work towards layering as many as possible. So we've talked with several of the nation's largest banks, and while they've added technology solutions, they've indicated that adoption rates could be higher, which leads us to segmentation and sequencing, and it's a bit of an art. So for segmentation, customers have different behaviors and risk levels. The days of only sequencing activity based on days past due must change. You can begin now, you can predict delinquency, and you can communicate proactively to prevent it. So how much money could you save by avoiding hundreds of calls every month? That's the largest cost in a collections function. Sequencing, as I stated, segments have behave differently, and they're going to require a sophisticated approach to sequencing your automated touch points, the technology, and your call strategy. So sequencing that can adapt through artificial intelligence and allow you to hyper segment customer populations. Imagine an individualized approach for each individual. In the upper right, personalization. Are you still sending out static communications to all customers based on days past due? Are your collection calls scripted and they're built on old principles, or have they been updated to humanize the approach? We're going to certainly cover that topic during the session today. Process optimization, digital collections is a must, but are your processes operating efficiently today? Are they audit free? Are you maximizing the potential of the function before adding and layering in technology? We believe that you should optimize the foundation of your home before adding the new addition and updating the floor plan, so to speak. Finally, reporting and analytics. How can you set goals and forecasts if you aren't adequately measuring every process and function related to those goals? So the power of these insights will really take you to the next level. On the screen here that Scott flipped to, it's more than just technology. As stated, optimizing the process is paramount. We're currently working with the top 50 bank where we're focused on enhancing and optimizing, and they're experiencing incredible returns, and they're getting result improvements for all key performance indicators. So when we begin layering in technology solutions, they're going to begin to experience next level results compared to forecasts that they're targeting today for the year of 22. Next slide, please. These are the 15 elements of an optimal collections operation. I'm going to take time just to highlight a few, but review the list. And I'd recommend you jot down what you notice as it relates to areas where you have great strength, and then elements that maybe you identify as a targeted opportunity. When we engage with financial institutions, this is an exercise that really highlights different areas of focus. Take a look at number 7. This is an area that we're going to discuss today. Collection calls. They will always be needed. That channel's never going to go away. Many customer types still prefer to engage with a human, but this is an element, as I mentioned, that it's really driving to humanize your approach versus just asking for the amount due. 13 on this list is accountability. Every team I've led, accountability was always an opportunity. It requires great leadership to build a culture that holds themselves and every individual accountable to deliver on job expectations. I believe that you need to cultivate the skill and layer in setting progressive targets, celebrating the wins to ensure you have an engaged and hardworking group. One team that we're working with, they've asked us to shadow their agent coaching sessions to help develop their supervisors and raise the bar. Next slide, please. Here's a few solutions and results related to process optimization specifically. In a very short period of engagement with any collections group, we're able to identify areas of low-hanging fruit that in many cases require little to no technology investment. So because I and my team, we have a tremendous amount of collections expertise, we work with financial institutions to create solutions that frankly don't have the resources or the time that they can commit to doing. So when you take a look at this slide, you'll see payment arrangement conversion. One area that we worked with a client, 58% improvement within 90 days. And then an incremental increase was observed of 78% after 12 months. If you have an installment loan portfolio, collateral repossessions, we helped a drop of 55% reduction in repossessions over the first 12 months. Are any of these areas ones that maybe you've highlighted to drive improvement for the year 2022? Scott, can you go ahead and lead us into capabilities and approach?
Sure, thank you, Byron. So, I want to be clear, we are not a third-party collections organization. What we do is help our customers who are first-party collectors collect more of the money, therefore not have to outsource or charge off loans, and the ultimate business benefit, lower charge-offs, less loan loss reserves, and of course, that impact on the stock price and business performance. So I just want to make that clear in terms of the types of services we offer. We help our customers through these capabilities and approaches be better collectors. So we've highlighted that digital transformation in the collection space is more than multi-channel contacts, and it's more than just technology. And our experience indicates, as Byron mentioned earlier, that even collection shops on the higher end of the digital transformation maturity scale, they may have payment portals, they may be using email, text, and chat in addition to the telephone. They may have mobile and online banking alerts. Even these organizations struggle to achieve the adoption rates they thought they would. And in effect, they're leaving unrealized value on the table for the investments that they've made. When we talk about the capabilities an organization needs to successfully transform its collections functions, we really focus on 4 key things: journey science, artificial intelligence and machine learning, data analytics, and interaction management. As Byron mentioned earlier, our customers have taken different approaches to maturing these capabilities in these areas, and in some cases establishing disciplines and strengths in some of them or all of them, and in other cases looking to partners or service providers for support. These are core capabilities of Perficient, and we are happy to assist our clients in whatever level of support they require. We're going to focus on journey science and interaction management during today's webinar, really due to time constraints, but we're always happy to continue the conversation with any of you afterwards. Journey science it combines traditional research-based insights with data-driven evidence through a cycle of continuous optimization. Data gets fed back into personas and journeys to refine them, and additional research insights inform solutions that can be measured through data and analytics. The differentiator really is bringing these 2 components together: journey mapping and continuous insights to optimize solutions. Customers want their financial institution to understand their needs and help them on their journey, no matter what channel or business unit they're interacting with. I mean, that's been the message for the last 5 or 6 years, and I think we've all heard it. Journey science helps organizations better understand and predict the needs of customers in order to provide frictionless and cohesive banking experiences. Through a combination of qualitative insights along with quantitative data, journey sciences helps answer questions like, who are our customers? What are their actual experiences with our organization? What should the customer experience be? What are the obstacles and gaps that exist today? And how will we prioritize improvements? So it really is a discipline that takes research, analytics, internal data that you have in the organization, maybe external data that's available, third-party data, and combines that with your personas and customer journeys to really get a much better understanding and a much more segmented understanding of your customer base, and applying those principles to your delinquent customer base have the same benefit. So our approach of defining customer journeys for the collections process with our approach of defining it, we have as much rigor on that side as we would for the customer acquisition process. And that's fundamental for gaining insights. You'll need to optimize channel contacts and personalized messaging, which really are the fundamental building blocks of an improved collections function. Personas help identify and understand the target audience segments. Experience maps help identify key stages of engagement, and customer journeys define interactions, gaps, and opportunities. It's not necessary to start from scratch, so we're not talking about a greenfield situation here. We understand, and we work very well and understand that while there are differences between customer acquisition and collections, we have found that for those clients with established personas and journeys for their marketing efforts, we are able to augment, refine, and adapt those to the collection space, thus allowing everyone in the organization to speak about customers using a common framework. And as a final note, journey maps can be flexible and look at the customer journey from a transactional, life cycle, or outcomes-based perspective. Now, Byron's going to spend some time describing how we translated this approach and this way of thinking into concrete results for our clients.
So what if you could evolve your company's digital experience to better meet the individual needs of each individual customer? So earlier we touched briefly on sequencing when sharing the elements of a digital collections transformation. So I want to go ahead and discuss really this important component. Leverage your customers' contact preferences and stage your interactions to drive a mutual servicing win. Do you know your customers' contact preferences? If you do, it can be really powerful. It's been proven, as Scott indicated earlier, that indicating with customers in their channel of choice will drive higher contact rates and higher payment conversion. This slide represents an example, a sequencing design example of how multiple contact channels can be layered from pre-delinquency, you'll see in the upper right with that black bar, through to charge-off. Charge-off being 180 days past due in this example. And you'll see in the upper right in the red that optimal contact sequencing increases success in early stages of delinquency. So what's your cost per call? Do you budget $5, $7 per call when your agent takes a call? So by structuring sophisticated sequencing, you get to drive higher adoption rates, interaction, and self-serve payment rates. You'll also see in the lower left that there's a plethora of automated touch points that exist that you can deploy cheaper than calling in many cases. You don't have to implement them all, but how many do you employ today as part of your own strategy? But I'll throw a twist from a collections perspective. So let's just take a look at ATM pop-ups. Most banks do have ATMs. Well, are you using it to illustrate a message related to maybe a delinquency? There's different ways to use these automated touch points from a collections perspective. They all have maybe different rules and guidelines, but consider this list. It's really time to build and leverage these because call restrictions, as we talked about earlier, they're tightening and the customers have different preferred ways of interacting with their bank. So to close out the slide, we help financial institutions layer in calling really after also we allow to help the technology channels resolve the easy cases. On our journey today, we've introduced technology, sequencing, so it's time that we want to discuss agent-assigned workflow design. Is yours optimal? When was the last time you assessed your process? We see and we're seeing workflow designs that during the pandemic became somewhat complacent. Volumes have been dramatically lower and agents moved to working remote. And some of the productivity standards and results, they took a dip. So we provide current state assessments of workflow designs and develop detailed future recommendations that include layouts, production expectations for all levels of delinquency, and forecasted benefits. On the right side of the slide is what I'm calling the leadership mindset. These 4 questions are what should be top of mind with line level supervisors and managers as they operate their day. Next slide, please. This is our approach to helping develop the optimal workflow design. People, process, and tools showcased on the right. This is probably a term that might be overused, but I guarantee you our approach isn't. We assess all aspects of the current design, front to end, bumper to bumper, and we provide an explicitly detailed roadmap and vision as to how change can occur and what timing and order and what results you can expect to achieve. This is a success story or case study where we worked with a super community bank to help them optimize their workflow design. We conducted the full assessment. We helped them rebuild their flow. We supported all communication aspects to ensure that everyone was focused on the result. You'll see at the bottom of the slide the key benefits. The bank expects to increase agent productivity by 46% and reduce monthly delinquencies by 3.4 million. We identified many key drivers that were limiting their performance, and through implementation and change, they're now realizing these benefits. What if you could establish a deeper connection with your customers through a better informed, personalized conversation? So now that your workflow has been optimized in our journey today, how's your communication strategy, and when was the last time you revisited how you engage your customers? So on this slide here, it's around humanizing the conversation. Earlier, we talked about personalization, and this is directly linked to it, but not just your calls. I'm also talking about how you communicate through your technology. That will also help drive larger and higher adoption rates. When you look at this slide, you'll see that customers want their financial institution to understand their needs and provide support while in delinquency. They chose your bank in a time of need, and that hasn't wavered. The second paragraph is important, and I'm going to read it. Every creditor wants their balance paid to prevent a loan loss, and the collection agent who makes the customer the #1 priority is the one who will get paid first every time. So help your customers decide to pay you first. My career 27 years ago began as a full-time collector on the phone 40 hours a week. And I excelled at my job because I focused on this concept back then. Not the incentives or rewards, but the customer and helping them. My promise to pay conversion was 90%. And customers chose to pay me over other creditors. And when you create a culture where your collectors are hyper customer experience focused, you will win. We talked a lot earlier about the individuals that are going to be falling into the delinquency. Everyone's going to be calling them. This is going to be a very important section. I recently published a blog on this, 5 questions and statements in your collections call model script to convey empathy and improve loss rates and increase customer loyalty. So if you were a delinquent customer and I called you, how would you feel if I approached you in these ways? How can I support you and your family during this time of need? My goal is to serve you and ensure that you have all the information needed to make the best decision for your family. We're here for you. The 4 boxes on the right are questions that all of your collectors should be asking themselves as they perform their jobs to execute at the highest level. On the next slide, can you relate with any of these actual sound bites from calls that we hear when working with financial institutions? Now, I'm just going to read number 1 and 3 to you. Mr. Jones, your balance is $1,592.19. Your total due is $130.60, and $84.80 of that is past due. Are you able to pay that? There's a lot of confusion in that statement. There's a lack of clarity. Number 3, can I do something to start paying on the past due amount? The customer asked. The response from the collector was, you should just go back to the retailer and talk to them. Lack of ownership, lack of one-call resolution. Now, not every call we hear is an opportunistic call. Look at number 2 and 5. There's definitely a compliment, and you've got a good use of acknowledgement and empathy. On the next slide is how can you improve your results? Operate with a singular focus. Develop a clear picture with effective probing. Create a win-win situation with negotiation. Provide the right solution at the right time. And then restate your decisions and commitments so that you can reduce the chances of your broken promise to pays. So you might think that your call model is good and doing well because your agents are adhering. But have you truly listened to the calls from the perspective of the customer and their experience? How are you challenging the call model flow for your institution to maximize total business performance? On the next slide here is another great success story for a top 50 bank that we worked with this year. Their call model was heavily focused on compliance. Nothing wrong with that, but it lacked empathy. And this resulted in a poor customer experience and losses that honestly could have been avoided. So we enhanced their call model. We infused empathy and we aligned the model with their own company mission statement. We then developed all the training materials for the client, facilitated the entire training program, and conducted ongoing call calibration sessions to ensure adherence and performance results were aligned. You'll see the key benefits at the bottom, and I'll say we're very proud of how well that team adapted and shifted their focus directly to the customer. Transformation doesn't have to happen all at once, it just has to happen. So as we get closer to the end of today's webinar, we discussed many areas of transformation today, and we hope that it really hasn't overwhelmed you. Based on where you're at in your journey, hopefully there's been one or multiple areas that you're honing in on today. Transformation is not accomplished overnight, as the slide says, and our engagements with financial institutions are really focused from a partnership perspective. We support the recommendations that we provide with on-the-ground interaction and deep results monitoring. Our goal, as I mentioned earlier, and my personal goal when I was working with many of those banks personally, was to really help everyone excel. I promised you a great offer at the beginning of this webinar, and we have an exclusive complimentary workshop to share. We have a strategy workshop, and we are offering our strategy workshop absolutely free with 100% no strings attached commitment. We believe that there is a desire in every collection shop, but there's always one or more reasons why you can't progress towards that vision. So our workshop is really designed to have focused discussions on your current process. We share strategies that you can use to imagine a future that really improves your total business performance. Many clients that have went through this workshop have left very excited. Plus, they walk away with some great low-hanging fruit ideas that they'll be able to implement right away. So you're probably in the middle of loss forecasting for 2022 right now, and you're using the last 18 plus months data versus maybe pre-pandemic or leveraging data from the last big market crash. We're seeing that the last 18 months is going to be much different than the forecast for the next 18 months. So by spending a few hours with us, we're going to discuss different perspectives that perhaps will allow you to mitigate additional losses and achieve a brighter outlook. There's a lot to be said for expertise, but there's also a lot to be said for keeping an open mind. This slide highlights the workshop deliverables and really what you're going to receive post-session. Again, completely free. We deliver a customized return on investment estimate based on your data, helpful tips, lessons learned, recommendations for customer journeys and different strategies and segmentation that you can use, and then recommendations for operating model changes. That's all part of our workshop. This is our final success story before we launch into Q&A. Here's a top bank that took us up on our offer and extended our engagement in actually building into a roadmap design effort, a design that mapped out their entire future state transformation for all people, process, and technology focused around collections. The potential annual portfolio loss improvement is targeted to be a 44% annual improvement. It's just incredible. We're actually working with them right now, and we're actually exceeding some of the expectations that we had outlined in the roadmap. These are real numbers. So with that said, I absolutely appreciate your attention thus far. I want to make sure that we reserve some time. We're going to go ahead and move into the questions and answer segment. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to you, Eugene.
Awesome. Thank you, Byron and Scott. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the questions box instead of the chat box, and we'll get to them as we see them. So the first question is, thank you for the presentation. How long does a quote typical unquote collections transformation take?
I'll pipe in on that one, Eugene. So, improving the collections function typically requires some technology modernization as well as culture changes for frontline associates. I mean, we spoke a little bit about bringing in different communications channels, about the data infrastructure and the technology infrastructure to support real-time decision making and personalization. And Byron spent a lot of time talking about workflow optimization, call model changes, and those are as significant and as complicated, if not more complicated, than the technology side of the house. So, we see three basic approaches, right? There's organizations that kind of look at it from an IT modernization point of view. Other organizations look at it from a best practices transformational point of view. And still others look at it from a total organizational transformation point of view. And each one has its pros and cons. So IT modernization really focuses on systems optimization, systems replacement, minimal process reengineering. Compared to the other two, the disruption to the business is rather minimal. Benefits are really focused on cost takeout. Costs are relatively low in comparison to the other two, but it's more of a learn as you go approach because there's no single technology solution that's going to be totally compatible with the way you do business or the way you want to do business. And so you're always going to have those unknown workarounds that you have to deal with after you've made your technology change. Best practice approach focuses on core process improvement. So basically that's picking a couple of core processes, doing the traditional process analysis, process improvement approach. Business disruption is a little bit greater. You get a little bit more benefit, but it does require some technology support in order to support the new processes. And that usually takes anywhere from 6 to 12 months, depending on the scope of functions under consideration. Whereas an IT modernization approach, again, depending on what systems you're looking at, could take 3 to 9 months. The organizational transformation approach really focuses on broad integrated process improvement and technology enablement. And it has to align with the overall business strategy, but it results in significantly greater improvement than the other approaches, typically 10 times greater than the other approaches. Business disruption is more significant. It's more of really a top-down approach than the others, and you do need key executives supporting it in order to drive success. Those transformation efforts can take anywhere from 9 to 18 months and typically require third-party assistance, whether it's internal to your organization, so maybe a change management group within your organization, or third-party providers to provide that type of support, because it is an organizational and cultural change, and it does require constant monitoring over a period of time and feedback and reinforcements.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Next question, I can answer this one myself. Question is, didn't see any contacts listed for the workshop. How can I learn more about it? I dropped Byron's contact information as well as Scott's contact information in the chat. I don't know if you guys have any other suggestions. Feel free to mention that right now, Byron, Scott.
Yeah, I'll add off of that. So thanks for sending that information, Eugene. But certainly, I love your enthusiasm, wherever the question came from. We can certainly discuss offline a time that works for you and then key parties within your collections organization. We send out a brief questionnaire just so that we can familiarize and prepare in advance to ensure that session is centered around your goals and the areas that you desire, that you want to expand and optimize based on the content that we shared today. And there may even be things that you want to focus on that we didn't talk about. You can certainly add that in as well. So I look forward to meeting with you, whoever you are, and your team.
Awesome, thanks, Byron. Next question is, you mentioned performance-aligned incentives and rewards. What metrics should we consider to improve our operations output?
I can go ahead and take that one. I know that's from the list of the 15, so thanks for pulling that one out. the results, or you asked specifically around the metrics, that really can vary. The main goal is that you're selecting goals that directly link to department and company goals. Structuring qualifiers are incredible with driving accountability, such as maybe a productivity utilization or an adherence goal, especially with remote workers. Then I would select your top key performance indicators, maybe it's payment conversion, promise to pay, kept rates, and call quality. So, and then also finally, kind of depending on your group, you might be attaching delinquency roll rates and or your monthly loss targets.
Awesome. Thanks, Byron. Next question is, how do personas map into journey science? And how is segmentation different than journey science?
I'll take that one, Eugene, since I spoke to it, right? A two-parter. So personas map into journey science. Really, personas are an input to the overall journey science work effort. Journey science is a way to enhance the personas you have and to develop new personas as you learn more information about your customer base. So journey science is really the process of ongoing customer research, feedback, data analysis, and ways to look at getting a better understanding of your customers than just personas alone, so that it really is a continuous feedback kind of loop. And as you develop, as your organization develops capabilities in journey sciences, what you'll find is that you'll be updating your personas on a periodic basis because of new information that you're gleaning from the activities that you track on the website and the online banking site. Sort of you're looking at your customer data and looking at trends and things that happen, and sort of make those correlations that help inform and better detail the customer personas that you already have. Segmentation is really something a little bit different. Journey science is a way to better understand the customers, and it really is a better way to understand the customers in each of your collection segments. We probably don't think most of you will segment, nor should you segment the delinquent population in the same manner as your marketing department does. So, things that make sense in a collection space, such as segmentation based on risk, days past due, amount due, they make sense. But the idea of journey science is to look at each one of those segments, because each one of those segments is comprised of many different types of customers, many different customer personas. So the idea here is to use journey science to take the segmentation that you do and understand the customers within that segment at a much better level of detail, so that you can basically establish subsegments and treat each individual subsegment in a much more personalized and human fashion. And really the objective is you want to get paid first, like we talked about a little bit earlier. We feel that the organizations that deal with their customers in a more personalized and human fashion are going to be the guys that get paid first, and are going to be the guys that maintain customer loyalty through these rough economic times.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. At the moment, there are no more questions. So if you do have other questions in the next hour or days, feel free to email Scott or Byron directly. I dropped in their contact information in the chat box. You will receive the presentation, the recording, as well as a PDF version of this presentation in the next day or so. So please look out for that and feel free to watch it again. And with that, we want to thank you for your participation and hope that the information we provided you with today was helpful. And we look forward to speaking to you another time. And Scott and Byron, thank you so much for your time today as well. Thank you, everyone.